Why should Tommy not be free?
Well, because he's not the Nelson Mandela freedom fighter that most people in America seem to think he is. He's a convicted football hooligan who beat up a policeman and got convicted of that. He was convicted of passport fraud, trying to get into America, convicted of mortgage fraud, convicted of 2 contempts of court where he nearly wrecked trials involving the rape gang suspects when they were on trial, nearly literally avoiding justice for the girls in those cases. He's now in prison, nothing to do with the rape gang scandal, but entirely to do with his defamatory conduct towards a 15-year-old Syrian refugee boy, who he first of all defamed, trying to make him the villain of a video where he'd been bullied. This ended up with the Syrian refugee boy suing him, winning £100,000 in damages and nearly £1 million in costs, and the judge telling Robinson, do not repeat these lies. And then he repeats all the lies in a movie that he produces as a so-called journalist, and he goes to prison for contempt of court, which he knows he's committing. So on every level, you can agree with his message about the rape gang scandal, where he's been right, like a lot of people, but you can also think he's about the most despicable messenger imaginable. But I also believe that there is a completely weird misunderstanding of who Tommy Robinson is and what he represents in America, because he's managed to position himself very cleverly as this kind of freedom fighter who's only in prison because he blew the whistle on all this stuff, so they've silenced him by putting him in prison. None of that is true.
Tommy Robinson is locked up over and over again, and people are like, here's a guy calling out the grooming gangs the government is actively covering up, and now they're imprisoning him. By all means. I don't know about his trials or what happens in your country.
All I would ask, Tim, look, you're a smart guy. All I would ask is, I just think it would be reasonable for me over here in the UK to say to all my American friends, just go and look at his criminal record, see what he was actually convicted of and why,
is it fake?
And draw your own conclusions. And then I would say, hang on, then I would say, go and look at the judge's verdict in the defamation case, where you'll see a very, well, it's actually worth 20 minutes of your time. Because what you'll understand...
This is what Elon Musk wants you all to do. I'm sorry.
All right, Cara.
In the Times investigation by Andrew Norfolk, which I think was a terrific investigation, they counted 14 grooming gang prosecutions. In 2022, there were 35 grooming-related convictions in Starmer's last 3 years. This is Elon doing his Elon thing, which is exactly what he does. He takes a small bit of possible problem and mistakes and puts it out, and then Tim gets a hold of it and decides and conflates 3 or 4 different things together so that, possibly you could, and there was a lake, and, it's the same thing that the Loch Ness Monster.
At least give me credit for my own agency. I don't get my news from Elon Musk.
I get that, but it's just, this is an attempt by him. I bet, my guess, I always look for whatever the grift, the business grift happens to be. They probably don't much like the Online Safety Act there at Twitter. They probably, that you have in Britain, which has controversies, believe me. We have the same issue at COSA here in the United States. Lots of things you can debate back and forth over how it should be done, because it's a very difficult issue around kids' online safety. And the fact of the matter is, in the United States, we protect kids offline more than we protect them online, which is really quite something. It's an astonishing situation. We overprotect them offline and underprotect them online. I've just done a series of really important interviews with people at Character AI and how kids are used. I just had the Yonder CEO, where you put phones away and the deleterious effects of that. But what's happening with Elon is he has gotten a taste of power, and he says, this seems to work here, and I'm going to create all kinds of business. Now, one, he's not a British citizen. It's none of his business. It's none of his fucking business, first of all. He wants political power and the ability to turn into, which I said right when he bought Twitter, a modern day Rupert Murdoch is what he's going for. He wants media power and control for his own self-interest and his own financial interests and his own ability to influence things. If you think, it makes me laugh when you think about the idea of, first of all, they all act like victims. Elon's always on some victim thing that someone's out to get him. When the world's richest people whine and moan about how they're victims, how they're misunderstood, how they don't have the thing, when they have got the power and the influence and the money over everything in their own business self-interest, something has gone desperately wrong with what we are. We have an idolatry of innovators that it has become undeserved for these people. It's all about their men. It's just all about their money. Every single thing leads to some financial.